So right now I'm going to do goblets. I'm going to do the cup and the base part. I'll do the cup parts first. They're a lot like a bowl that you would throw off the hump. I usually throw goblets with stiff clay so that they don't need to be as thick. To stand up, so you can make it nice and thin. You don't want a thick, heavy goblet. So it'll be at the top part. So I'm throwing it just like I would a bowl off the hump, except I'm making sure it stays straight up and down. I don't want it to get too wide too early. Making sure it's nice and thin. I'll go back, I'll clean up the outside. Get the water out of the bottom. When I cut it off, I want to cut it off pretty level. I'll trim the point into it that'll go into the stem, but so I can set it down without wrecking it. So I'm going to start with it as wide as I want the bottom to be for the cup. So this is going to be how wide the base is. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to move across. I'm separating the clay that I'm going to use for the wall of the pot, for the base here. So this is going to be the clay that makes the stem. Then I'm going to press in and towards the center. As I press towards the center, I want to move up a little bit. Go back here and make sure I partition off. This is going to be where I start cutting underneath. Go back in, grab that clay and pull it up. And again, I want to make this thin so that it'll be light when it's all put together. You don't want to be drinking wine out of a big, heavy glass. That's why they make wine glasses, right? Once it's this level, I'm going to open it up to receive the base part of the cup. I'll go back and I'm going to pull this up and taper it. Go back, squeeze it in. It's nice and clean. I'm going to give it a little edge down here. Here we go, stem. To cut it off, we're going to run the needle tool underneath up at an angle so that it's cutting it off so I don't have to trim as much later. And then lift it up. So that's... I'll now throw the chuck to trim the stems in. So basically I'm going to throw all the way down to the wheel head. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to pull it taller than the stems that I have. This doesn't need to be thin or super pretty. It should be kind of thick. The top here should be narrower than the base of the stem so that when you put a stem in, you can get around the outside edge. It should be smooth and it should be as level as you can get it. Also, you need to make sure that this hole here is big enough to fit the openings for the top part. If that's too thin, you'll have a hard time getting the top of the stem in. Now, if I want to use this for other things, I need to give it a little bit different shape too. So I'm going to actually open this up just a little bit like this so that I can trim other things in it later. That should be the right size. Now, it's important too that the bottom, if you're going to do it, use this after it's bisqued, the bottom has an edge that you're going to be able to get clay around. So I usually will put a couple notches down here so the clay will hold it on well. So now I'm going to trim the stems for these. So I'm going to just put it in the chuck. Make sure that it's round in the chuck. And then I'm going to take the square end. I'm just going to smooth out the inside here. I'm going to roll over this edge so it's nice and smooth. And burnish the inside with my finger. Trim this like I would any other pot. Want to get it in the middle. I'm going to anchor it with some wads of clay. And then trim the base of it. Now this base I want trimmed so that it comes to a point, and this is where the top of the stem will go in. If it's pointy, the stem will fit in better. Smooth it off. Then I'm going to scratch up the part where the stem will go. So I'll put the stem on, spin it, kind of mark it, and then score that area up. Add some water in that seam, a little slip, and then on this part of the stem, I'm going to scratch it up. Flip it on top, give it a wiggle so it's stuck, and then center it. Doing this will help make sure that it's level when it's done. Then I'll go back, smooth this joint with a wooden tool and my finger. So we have a goblet.